Coach, you've talked a lot about culture being one of the reasons for success this season. Can you define it for me? I mean, like, what's on your list? What's on the items? What's on the checklist? Sitting in the front of the classrooms and showing up early, like, what is it?
How long do I have? That's a tough. I need like a semester. I should teach a class. No, I think this. I think first of all, and that's a fair question and a good question. I think the first thing about culture is organic. It is not a sign up in your building. It's not a T-shirt you wear. It's not breaking the team down and saying, "Hey, culture on 3." I think culture is organic, right? It manifests itself with the relationships that you build. I think that there's things that we talk to in our culture that are of the utmost importance. Commitment is really important to our culture. Discipline is really important to our culture, right? Accountability is very important to our culture. Mental and physical toughness are very important to our culture. Love is very important to our culture. Vulnerability is very important to our culture. Transparency is really important to our culture. So that's just to name a few. But I can't just say those things. We have to live those things, and then we have to have teachable moments along the way, A, to celebrate the guys that are doing those things, B, point out when maybe we're not, and then how can we fix it, and then how do we correlate that? Because who you are some of the time is who you are all of the time. And so if you want to be a disciplined football team when you take the field each weekend, you have to be disciplined when you're off the field. How do how are we in school? How are we in community service? All of it all adds up to that becomes your culture, because that is who you are. That's how we go about everyday life. For example, when we have a team meeting and that meeting breaks, I have the same few guys that early on would make sure the team room was clean. There was no Gatorade bottles, there was no tape, there was no trash. And a couple of those guys' names were Roshan Johnson and Bijan Robinson. Well, that elevated to, when those guys were gone, the running back room was the ones that cleaned up the team room. To now, when we break a team meeting, everybody looks around. And so it has grown from 2 guys that has grown into more, to when we go to the movies on Friday nights before a ball game, if we have a night game, everybody chirps up, pick up your trash. So I know those sound like little things, but in the end, those are really big things to me, because that means that's the way we're thinking all of the time. And if we're doing those little things, and that's why I say to celebrate the small victories, I really celebrate that stuff, because I think those actions and that behavior leads to the big victories, leads to 1st and goal on the 5 and your defense has got to get 4 stops, leads to 3rd and 12 backed up on the road and you convert a 1st down. I think it leads to those guys counting on one another, relying on one another, because they're doing the right things on a daily basis. And we're not perfect, and I don't expect our guys to be perfect, but if they can be coachable on and off the field and they can learn from one another, then we will continue to grow and our culture will continue to grow. But it takes being vulnerable. It takes being transparent with one another. It takes getting to know one another so that you can have some empathy for what a guy's going through, not just on the field, but off the field, where he came from, what's going on in his life. And we have to share those things. And so in the summer, we do a lot of culture work every Wednesday morning. Now, Friday night, I do a culture exercise before. That's the last thing we do before we go get on the bus, whether it's to go to the hotel or to go get on the plane. Like, we invest a lot in that. And I think that, obviously, to me, it's paying dividends, because I think culture beats talent if your culture is really strong. Culture and talent together is a pretty powerful force, and that's something that we've tried to create here.
Hey, Coach.